Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we're going to be looking at another band I've not heard of before. Now they contacted me shortly before Christmas. It's a band called Ouija from Spain, I do believe. Now they asked me to have a look at a track off their new album, which was released the day after Christmas. Actually, it was released on 26th of December, but of course at that point I had taken a break from making videos over the holidays, so I can't really tell you much about the band. All I can tell you is it is a Spanish black metal band that has over 25 years of experience. Looking on their Bandcamp page, they've released, I think, 5 albums and a demo. You know, the demo was released in 1996. So, you know, it's going back quite a bit. The new album is called Fathomless Hysteros, I believe. And that is actually the name of the track we're going to look at today. We're looking at the title track of the album, Fathomless Hysteros. Now, I can tell you that the band is a 5-piece featuring Map on guitar, Midgard on vocals, Fulgur on drums, Shoggoth on bass, and JM101 on guitars. So there's that. Now, as we all know, I have a very sort of love-hate relationship with black metal. You know, I've got very strong opinions when it comes to black metal. So we shall see how this one goes. So it is a lyric video. I do have lyrics for it. What I had to do, though, I had to actually watch the video on mute and go through the lyric video to type down the lyrics. And I've noticed there are some... I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Possibly bad translations, because obviously they're a Spanish band and they're singing in English. Some of the lines don't necessarily make sense. But like I said, that's probably just, you know, a bad translation of what the actual lyrics sound like. So anyway, we'll jump into this track and see what we've got. So this is Ouija with Fathomless Hysteros. Let's have a look. Well, there you go. Ouija with Fathomless Hysteros. Now, as I said, I got the lyrics here directly from that video. You know, I watched it on mute, wrote all the lyrics down, and there are a couple of grammatical errors, you know, some lines that don't necessarily make sense, but again, that could just come from translation problems. I don't know. And there are also a couple of words that are actually missing in the actual, nothing like too major, but there's the occasional word that's sort of missed out from the lyrics on screen to what is actually being said. Musically, it's pretty much your typical black metal. You know, it's fast, long, pretty repetitive riffs, although they do change it up at one point, and that actually sounded really, really good. So, you know, musically it does sound good, but it's pretty typical black metal for the most part. Vocally, again, pretty typical for black metal. The mixing could possibly do with maybe a bit of tweaking, you know, because there are some times when the music overpowers the vocals and you can't actually hear them that well. But again, this is pretty typical of black metal. You know, not all black metal has a particularly high production value. You know, I've often referred to something I call bathroom black metal, where, you know, it sounds like the singer's screaming his lungs out in the bathroom and someone's recording the guitars in another room and the actual recording studio's in a completely other room, you know, so it all sounds a bit separated. Now, this doesn't suffer from that in the literal sense, you know. It does sound very low budget. I mean, even though they've been doing it for quite some time, the mixing still does sound a bit disconnected, in my personal opinion. But like I said, I've got a sort of love-hate relationship when it comes to black metal. But nevertheless, it was still a pretty decent song, and, you know, I did like the way they switched it up halfway through, because that sounded really, really good. Now, as with most black metal, not all, most black metal, it's not a particularly deep track lyrically. You know, occasionally you do get some quite deep and meaningful tracks. This one just sounds like one of the sort of typical black metal tropes of being in a void of nothingness, cold and alone sort of thing. Now it opens with what I can only assume to be the chorus, because it is repeated 3 times throughout the track. And it says, "Blackness is blind under your mantle. Cosmos, there is no life. There is no death. Everything goes around of nothing. Nothing is born from its turn. And in the flames of black fire, nothing burns, it just feels cold. Icy cold, and the smell of a dead and fathomless hysteros." Of a dead and fathomless hysteros. Now, in there, in the lyrics that were displayed on screen, it says icy cold and smell of a dead and fathomless hysteros. But when you actually listen to the way he sings it, he says icy cold and the smell of a dead and fathomless hysteros. But, you know, it does seem to be pretty much talking about being in a dark void of nothingness, cold and alone. You know, blackness is blind. You know, cosmos, there is no life, there is no death, everything goes around of nothing, nothing is born. You know, so it is literally just talking about a black void by the sounds of things. Impenetrable emptiness with lots of black holes, eager as lava when ordering their flesh, moaning between bone vortices, black stars, your eyes are. And then it goes back into that chorus. Blackness is blind under your mantle. Cosmos, there is no life. There is no death. Everything goes around of nothing. Nothing is born from its turn. And in the flames of black fire, nothing burns. It just feels cold. Icy cold, and the smell of a dead and fathomless hysteros. Of a dead and fathomless hysteros. So again, there's that line there. Everything goes around of nothing. I think that might just possibly be a bad translation. I don't know. Like I said, it is a Spanish band, so English not necessarily their first language, so it could just be a bit of a bad translation, but it still makes sense in its own way. In your bottomless corridors, I can smell your acid breath, like a rotten egg spawned by the great winged dragon. that with its long claws caresses the stars. Its fallen dust pulls off my skin while it swallows me whole into the most turbulent infinity. Infinity. Then back into that chorus. Blackness is blind, under your mantle, cosmos, there is no life, there is no death. Everything goes around of nothing. Nothing is born from its turn, and in the flames of black fire, nothing burns, it just feels cold. Icy cold, and the smell of a dead and fathomless hysteros. Of a dead and fathomless hysteros. And then it ends very abruptly. Now, the last track I spoke about, a couple of days ago, you know, I was mentioning I like it when songs abruptly ended, and that track, it didn't do it well. This track did it exactly right. You know, it sort of cuts off halfway through something, you know, whereas the track I looked at the other day, the name of the track completely eludes me right now. You know, they started to fade out the track and then cut it off very abruptly, and it sounded completely wrong, but they did it right here. But beside that, like I said, musically it's very well done, and like I said, I like the way they changed it up. You know, and the performances were very, very good. Like I said, pretty typical black metal, really. This is what I'd sort of put in the sort of mid-range of black metal. You know, you got the very high production quality black metal things like Dimmu Borgir and Emperor and stuff like that, and then you've got the bathroom black metal. This is sort of somewhere between the two. You know, it's pretty good. It's not something I think I would personally listen to frequently. You know, it might be something I put on occasionally when I was in the mood. But again, that's just my personal preference, because black metal's not like one of my go-tos when it comes to music. You know, occasionally I'll be in the mood for some, but not very often. And I think of all the black metal that I have, I'd probably go for others over this one, but that's just my personal opinion. But don't get me wrong, it's still a good piece of music. I still quite liked it. You know, I enjoyed it whilst I listened to it. And, you know, it's one of those albums I'd probably break out every now and again, you know, just to have a listen to something a little bit different. So yeah, not bad at all. Can't really think of much else to say about that, so I think I will leave that as it is. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribe if you aren't already, because it does help me out considerably. And yeah, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.